and development. Over the past 25 years, the country has maintained uninterrupted democratic governance, holding 7 general elections. However, this continuity has not translated into the deepening of democratic values or institutions. Instead, systemic issues such as electoral malpractice, political party inefficiencies, weak governance structures, and endemic corruption have eroded public trust in democratic process. In response to this pressing crisis, the African Center for Leadership and Strategy and Development Center, LSD, and its partners initiated the Strengthening Nigeria's Democracy Project. This nationwide campaign seeks to fortify democratic foundations, foster citizens' engagement, and create pathways for credible and inclusive leadership. In pursuit of the above, a national conference themed Strengthening Democracy in Nigeria, Pathways to Good Governance and Political Integrity was held from January 27th to 28, 2025 at the Abuja Continental Hotel here in Abuja. The conference convened serving and former members of the executive, legislature, judiciary, notable private sector players, as well as representatives from civil society organizations, CSOs, the media, academics, and other key stakeholders. Key issues identified. There is a growing threat to democracy as a system of government in Africa. Between 2020 and 2023, there were 8 coup d'etats, just as a number of supposed democratic leaders made efforts to change their constitution to extend their tenure. In about 60 elections held across the globe, including countries like South Africa, United Kingdom, United States of America, Japan, India, and Botswana, Senegal, 80% of the incumbents lost. The 2023 Open Society Barometer shockingly revealed that 30% of young people in our country said army rule was good for citizens, lending credence to some of the disturbing experience in some neighboring countries in ECOWAS. Past and recent events have proven that most African politicians seek power for personal interest rather than the national good, hence the current democratic experience. Gradually, state institutions have over time been weakened by the overbearing tendencies of those who occupy executive positions in the arm of government. There is a growing incident of state and elite capture in our political system, with the tendency to slip into a one-party state. There are concerns on the trend of electoral outcomes with respect to the role of the judiciary, where the courts have become the decisive agent in selecting leaders rather than the ballots. In spite of the series of reforms put in place to sanitize the electoral system, there appears to be an insidious metamorphosis into the current practice of vote buying observed in the polity. The roles of political parties have over time been eroded due to the capture by barons and warlords, resulting in lack of internal democracy and discipline. There is an obvious dearth of opposition voices and silence in the civic space. Centralization of an election management system impacts negatively on efficiency and effectiveness of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Democracy in our country, democracy in our climate is gradually disintegrating into plutocracy. Hence, citizens need to be sensitized on their rights and value of the votes. There seems to be a clandestine, by politicians in power to fix their cronies into Independent National Electoral Commission in readiness for the next election. The vibrancy for which civil society sector is known appears to be waning as some of them no longer speak truth to power. The way forward. Participants identified the following as what should be done to address the concerns raised and to strengthen democracy in Nigeria. We've compartmentalized this into 3 or 4 broad areas, what the executive should do. The executive should prioritize the development and implementation of policies aimed at reducing social inequalities and alleviating poverty to curb alarming trend of meal over the vote. The Ways report, which emphasized long-term strategies that prioritize sustainable electoral systems to benefit future generations rather than short-term solutions, should be revisited. The executive should entrench the judgment on local government democratic autonomy by ensuring judicial interpretation for the independence of the state electoral commissions. Police reforms should be prioritized as both the national and subnational level because a viable police force is crucial to strengthen democracy. The issue of state policing is inevitable considering the growing population and risk in the country. Correctional service should be placed under the Ministry of Justice for effective management rather than remaining in the Ministry of Interior. What should the judiciary do? The judiciary should pursue reforms to attain autonomy to address issues like judges' welfare, conditions of service, recognition of magistrates, to mention but a few. Legal officers should be reorientated to seek public interest rather than commercial interest. This will positively impact on the decongestion of the custodian facilities. What should the legislatures do? The legislature is encouraged to actively fulfill its oversight, lawmaking, and representation responsibilities, as a functional legislature is essential for thriving democracy. The proposals before the National Assembly seeking to reform the electoral process should be prioritized by the 10th Assembly. This should include other structural reforms of the electoral system, including the winner-takes-all system. Considering the limited time frame to the next general election, the National Assembly should prioritize the review of the Electoral Act. The legislature should fulfill its responsibility of thoroughly scrutinizing the process of appointing individuals to hold sensitive positions in INEC to minimize the tendency of the ruling party to plant its cronies in the electoral body. The inclusivity of electoral process should be reviewed to allow for the inclusion of diaspora voting, enabling Nigerians living abroad to participate in national elections. This will ensure that all citizens, regardless of their location, have a voice in shaping the future of the country and strengthen the democratic process by fostering a more inclusive and representative electoral system. What should the civil society do? Civil society and media do. Civil society should actively engage in citizen sensitization programs to educate them about their rights, responsibilities, and effective ways to hold duty bearers accountable. There should be advocacy for the reduction of the incumbent's power to appoint individuals into sensitive positions and control procurement processes. Civil society should advocate for an end to the culture of using state resources to fund the ruling party, as this trend is dangerous to widening the democratic space. They should support the legislature to ensure persons with questionable character do not find their way to positions that can be used to compromise the electoral system and the development of democracy in Nigeria. What should INEC do? INEC should promote the decentralization of election management in Nigeria to enhance efficiency, transparency, inclusivity by empowering regional and local structures to oversee electoral processes, address logistical challenges, and engage communities more effectively. INEC should undertake a review of its internal processes to incorporate ward-level coalition of results and ensure strict adherence to electoral guidelines as mandated. Technology should be integrated into the electoral process to enhance accountability and transparency, aligning with global best practices and ensuring the credibility of election outcomes. INEC should live up to its billing of strengthening political parties through its regulatory function to ensure internal democracy is entrenched in the parties. To further deepen the space for political participation, INEC should allow the registration of new political parties as enshrined in the Constitution. INEC should consider the creation of new departments to enable it effectively regulate monitoring political parties. What should security do? Electoral offenders should be prosecuted in accordance with the law, as this will serve as strong deterrent to others. Holding offenders accountable is essential for ensuring free, fair, and credible elections. Security agencies should be professional in their conduct and maintain their independence and neutrality on electoral matters and focus on protecting citizens' rights and upholding the rule of law. What should political parties do? Political parties must unite to form a strong, viable coalition that ensures checks and balances, promote accountability, and fosters healthy political discourse to protect the integrity of the democratic process. Political parties should adopt innovative strategies for raising funds to support their operations, ensuring financial independence and sustainability to minimize state capture and corrupt tendencies. Political parties should embrace competitive primaries, as this remains the most effective means to field competent and capable candidates for voters to make their choices. Democracy should not be a discourse only at the national and subnational levels, but should first be practiced within the political parties. And finally, a technical committee will be set up to take on most of what has been